Hi listeners, and welcome to my 5th episode of Inside Entertainment Industry Careers, a show that gives you personal insights into a variety of career roles in the creative industries. I'm your host, Emily Maguire, talent manager at Reflections Talent Agency and a career and business coach for the creative and entertainment industries at Reflections Career Coaching. My 5th guest is Sally Lark, who shares her career insights as a production designer for TV and film. Sally has worked on a variety of projects, including designing music video sets for Harry Styles, the MTV European Music Awards, Ed Sheeran. She's also contributed to productions like The Suspects, The Inbetweeners, Will Ferrell and Molly Shannon's Royal Wedding, and The James Corden Late Late Show. In this podcast, Sally discusses her journey into the world of production design, starting from a fascination with film sets as a child, and she explains the process from concept development to designing and constructing the sets. Lastly, Sally encourages aspiring professionals to persevere, keep learning, and to never give up on their dreams. Hi Sally, thank you so much for joining me today, and you're going to be discussing the world of production design, is that right?
From start to finish, and how I got into it and how I am and what I'm doing right now.
Lovely. And you grew up in Essex, didn't you? But you didn't just study in Essex, you also went to America. What was the inspiration for becoming a set designer? Did you know that from a young age?
I think it was always a big interest from watching films and the magic of the film. So you would watch something like The Goonies or Back to the Future or something like that. And the sets were amazing. So they were so important in how to get excitement on screen for the actors to interact with everything. So it's just always a wonderful fascination with it. And then as I started to look at careers, as you leaving your GCSEs and you're going into your A levels, I realised that I'm dyslexic and a writing course kind of career was never going to be one for me. It was something I always struggled with, but art, I just love doing it all the time. I started thinking that maybe it was a window dressing design. I suddenly started seeing posters on the wall for film and TV set courses for university. And I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. That's exactly. And I saw these pictures and I suddenly went to the library, I started looking everything up, and the passion then suddenly just got ignited. I want to be involved in creating what I always used to love watching.
Yeah.
So then I applied to a couple of universities, but back then there was really no course for theatre, film, TV, set design. It was all really around spatial design or interior and architectural degrees. The skills are very similar, so I went down that road and found myself technically drawing, construction methods. They're all so similar. In fact, as you're doing it, it's the same process of sketching to technical drawing to making a model, and the same skills cross over, except with architecture they're saying, oh, these buildings have to last for 75 years, but a set only has to last for six months or something like that. It's very different in the way that it's handled after that process. But after a couple of years at university and going through all those and learning all those skills, I realized that I didn't want to do the formal architectural degree and finish off with all those qualifications. It's a 7-year long slog. So that then led me on to a university, a different degree. And I started getting really inspired by talking to people. People would see my work. You suddenly started realizing I was seeing the world very differently. They certainly said, you're seeing things so imaginatively, creatively. We think you might need to be looking at going somewhere else. And I thought in the back of my mind, with the theatre and film and that background, that that's really what I wanted to do anyway. So that's when I started looking up a degree to kind of look at those skills, a crossover of it all. That didn't really exist in the UK. So I ended up applying to different master's degrees in America, because in America, what you could do was choose your classes week on, week out. So I ended up choosing classes in welding, construction, colour theory, things like that, which were helpful to becoming a designer in film and theatre and TV. Week on, week out was really a lot more hands-on, where the UK, it was a lot more theory-based. And as I say, being dyslexic, that just completely scared me. And I didn't really want to carry on going down that road, because I knew I would fail really at something I loved as well. So, but when you're filming and you're coming up with a design for something like these different sets, you have to know how materials work. So you have to know how far a piece of metal can bend, how it can bend, what it looks like when it bends, the treatments you can do to it. So by actually doing the welding classes hands-on, I got to understand what it meant and how far you could push the materials and wood, what kind of woods are out there. So there's some beautiful woods. How does the wood come to you in planks of wood, and or does it come in laminates? And so you start to actually learn the materials that you would later use as you start to create your sets. And I think when I talk to people, I actually know what I can talk to them about, and when they say and explain something to me, I actually understand why the metal can't go together like it does, or what's required by the welder to create what I need them to create. That is really a deeper understanding for me, from the color psychology to construction methods through to how materials can be manipulated for you. And I think that's what I got from those university degrees. A little bit of something from each one, a lot of dismissive stuff that I won't ever use, but a lot of stuff that I now carry with me, and I can still hear the things that the professors said to me in my head about how to use colors within something and textures and things like that, and those still kind of resonate with me as I'm designing. I still remember them and use them as inspiration.
It's very much a manual job then, from what you're saying, in terms of that, working with those materials, the feel.
Yeah, I get excited by material books as they arrive. I've got a team that I use and work with a lot. We collectively keep acquiring them as we're going along. So if you have laminates that go on worktops, you have samples of wood, you have painting techniques, you have everything like that. So when you actually get it in front of you, you touch it. I'm all forever touching things. I'm going into material shops, and you touch it and you feel it. My understanding now is I know what that will look like on camera. The velvet, with regards to the silk, and how the light in the studio with a camera lens will pick up on each of those different surfaces. If it's flat in front of me and it's on the computer, I just don't understand it until I actually get it in front of me. We are forever holding books up, holding things up against each other, putting a light, getting our phones out with the light on it, and we're holding it up against a material and going, oh, that's going to be too reflective on camera. We're going to get beams of light hitting the lens, which won't work. You then start to see them all the time in different ways. So I've got 50 something books of different samples of materials, and that I go to all the time, and I sit there, I squint at them, I look at them, and forever messing with them. But it doesn't stop. There's a new thing out, there's a new concrete effect plaster, or there's a new high resolution neon fabric that's come out, and you just need to always keep looking at them and finding inspiration from them. Maybe it's not suitable for that project, but it's amazingly great for the next one that you're going to look at. You just hold it all in reserve. I'm sure people listening who love the arts will have books of inspiration or something online where they've held their inspiration, and it will be there in 4 years' time. You'll get the right project where you go, that's exactly why I kept that image or that sample and things like that. But yeah, it's very tactile, hands-on, checking it out with your hands, feeling how heavy something is for the construction side as well. So that kind of, as you can hear, I get excited by it. I get, oh my God, I saw this amazing thing. Like I pull it into my team, like I look at this, how can we use this, and you get really excited about it. And I think that at the moment that dies away, that's really not when shouldn't be doing the job, but there's really, you just want to show it and it's, use it and kind of create with it as well. So
I can sense and feel that passion from you for the role that you do as well. Do you find that when you watch movies that you suddenly go, oh, I like that, I'll have to look at that and research what I could use that in a job in the future?
Absolutely. I think you always think that you're going to be the person, come up with the first unique use of this, or the way that this is shot, but it's not always the case, because one, you may not have the budgets, or you may not have a director that sees the same vision as you, and ultimately you need to be guided by them. So, but when you are watching things, so I go, oh, that's amazing, I'll look it up, how did they make that? My partner sits there watching movies with me, and he'll hear me go and he goes, what? And I go, oh, no, nothing. And he goes, no, you've seen something. And I go, I know, just what they've just done on camera is really difficult, by the way. And then I'm sat for the next 10 minutes and the movie's on pause while I'm explaining why that was so difficult. And it goes the opposite way. I'm watching something and I see a boom of a sound mic accidentally drop into the corner of a shot, and I get angry about it, and I just go, oh, that's someone's job, that is, to make sure that didn't happen, and things. That's the detail-driven part of the art department, is that we spot things like that, because we are looking at the set constantly. What's wrong? What have we left on set? You're constantly scouring the set because it represents you and your work. And so if there's anything that's mistakenly been left, or a cup of coffee by a crew member, it's your responsibility to get in there and make sure it's not. And that comes with confidence, because at the very beginning, I used to be very shy. Oh, I can't interrupt filming. I can't jump on set and say anything. And now I'm like, I will not let that go out there like that. First, when they go into the edit, they will see that mistake and they'll be upset with it. So it's best to do it right now, even if it puts a halt to filming. And I just put my hand up and go, art department needs to be on set. And then we walk on and I readjust it and I came off. And sometimes it slows it down, but other times people are really grateful that you spotted something. And I think that is why when we're watching things, you see the quality of people's work, you realize what that team went through to be able to make what they've done. And I think, that there is a collaboration of all departments to respect each other's talents and creativity to kind of be, helping each other out. So my set makes the lighting look great, and that combined makes the vision on camera look great. And so everybody's got their part that they play. And if you feel that you're going to be solely responsible for what is filmed, I think that's actually really wrong, because we are at one big collaborative team. And we really have to work together to help each other. And so when you see the beautiful work of something like the Wonka film or Poor Things or something like that, you realize what they must have gone through as a team together to create what's there. And some of it is absolutely astonishing and amazing. And that still excites me, that that's the world I get paid to work in. And I, am now part of a team where I love seeing my team create things for me. That I was just the initial spark of it, and those guys carry on with their creativity and make some amazing things. But yes, watching it on TV really inspires me, really makes me excited about what others are making. I'm thrilled to see what other people are making.
And you touched as well upon the director. How do you communicate your vision to everybody on set so they understand where you're coming from?
It's a very long process, as a lot of it's not actually ever seen by everybody. So it can start off with, at the moment, I'm on a concept development scheme. It's a concept for a new show, and I'm helping them develop the concept. We're nowhere near filming. But what you've done is you've got a team together and we're all talking. So we've got the producers, you've got the director, over cups of coffee and boxes of chocolates. We are throwing ideas at each other. What if we did this? Could we actually create it with this instead? And so you start to drive forward like lots of ideas. I take that away and I start to, we call mood board, and I start to get similar ideas, similar lighting effects, or if it's, something that's a little bit more period, a little bit more in the 70s or something like that, then I take lots of inspiration from original buildings and sets and go, this is how we could create it. And you throw that back to make sure that you're all on the same page. So once that's all been kind of agreed, I say that I need to then start to design a set. We need to put something down on paper. The directors and cameras might not see it, how it's in your head. And you might put it down and go, oh, they'll understand that because they worked in film. They know what they're doing. And you sit there and you see blank expressions and they're like, how's that going to work for us? So, so for you, it's what's in your head you have to convey to them. And I think if I can advise anybody going into this world, that's your hardest task from start to finish. What's in your head onto paper, onto video, 3D rendered drawing, to give it in front of somebody to say, this is how we're going to work. This is how my set will help you create what you're going to put on top of it. And those methods to do that, there's no fixed method. You can convey that by a Photoshop rendered image onto a 3D format, or overlay that onto a photo that you've taken of a location, or you have a 3D walkthrough that you've created with 3D software programs. They all help you convey that idea. And so when I put it all together, I then end up designing as I'm putting it together. So that doesn't work, take that wall away, because in your head you start thinking, if I put that wall in there, this camera can't get that wide shot that it needs. So now my design is impacted by the actual functioning reality of what a set can do and needs to do. So does that wall come in temporarily? Does production have enough hours in their filming schedule to allow me to do that? So do we need to come up with a different way of creating this set? Me personally, I work on a 3D rendered drawing. It allows me to understand the actual set size, how a person, an actor, can move around the set. Have I given them enough angles for that? Do I have a couple of walls in that should be half walls so that the camera can shoot through a section? So I start to work it out. I then start to render it so I can start to feel the vibe of it. There'll be a moment I just go, I think this is it. I think this is it for now. I render it up, and I put it into a whole process of presentation that allows producers, directors, cameras to all understand what's in my head. That allows them to input that to me. Oh, we can't do that because there's going to have to be a big lighting panel here that would totally get in the way of that. So you start to bounce off each other a little bit. It'll be about a 15-page presentation back to them of one actual setup. So not the entire script or the entire shoot, one area. With that, we get the feedback. So the director goes, amazing, this has given me an opportunity to do this top shot I didn't think I could get, but amazing. So you get to a point where everyone's like, this is going to be right. I'll go away and budget it at that point. I will draw it up maybe a little bit in further detail, or I'll get a 3D renderer to kind of draw it up for me. Meanwhile, I'm having conversations with art directors, prop people, so I can't actually physically do all of it myself. So you then come back, make sure everybody's accepted it. And then at that point, once it's signed off, you then have to create construction drawings, which are completely a different part of the whole process. The construction drawings are for a construction manager to take from you and get the set built in the way that you need it to be. At that point, we're going to be talking about finishes on the wall. Edge has to look smart because it will be very close up to camera. Some of it we call camera cheap because it's so far away that we don't have to spend a lot of money on it. But if, for example, the camera's going to pan past that piece of wall, then that needs to be top quality. So you then know that spends 2-3 days perfecting that. That has to be given to the construction team. My role on that would be overseeing it. I pop in every couple of days. I have people I trust that I build up long-term relationships who know what I would be expecting in quality-wise for that. I get an art director to run and oversee the whole lot, and I have props buyers that will be on the phone kind of liaising with them, liaising with me if it's something that I'm very detailed on and I really want to be involved in. So you kind of have a great team that you allow to head off, take what you've got in your head, add their mark on it. Everybody's got a little bit of something to add in. And for example, your construction manager, I can't turn around and tell them how to build it. I can tell them how I want it to look. But if they know the best way to build it, they know the best way to construct it, should the frame be actually welded because it's so heavy that wood won't take the weight of it. So it's best to leave that with the experts. And together as a team, you create the vision that you've agreed to sign off. And only every now and then do I jump in and go, actually, I really need this to look like this because there's been a huge conversation about this with the director, with the cameras, about how this section will be shot. And so that would be the process, and then you walk away and you just watch it on camera and keep an eye on it, and the standbys, making sure there's no light escape in a room or something doesn't look like it's still got tape on it from traveling or things like that. For 6-7 weeks whilst it's being filmed, you'll have another team that will just be looking after that whole process of keeping it looking like it did on that very first day. That's a standby team. So that, I guess that's the whole process. It's quite long and it's very detailed.
No, it sounds like there's so many different moving parts, and yet you work with a team who is highly creative and you allow them to have a voice as well. So it sounds like a wonderful work environment to work in every day.
Yeah, it's all very different. And I think that's one of the things is I started off in scripted, and I did scripted for nearly 10 years as an assistant, as a graphic designer for props, to art director, and to then move into different worlds and become a production designer and head of a department. I moved into different worlds, different projects were offered to me. And I think that some people stay in scripted, some people stay in commercials and light entertainment and things like that. But I think a designer can be very flexible around their skills. So for example, if you're doing a scripted, but it's got to be a script about a musician who does a music video, you then also have to be able to create a music video because that is actually what you're filming within the scripted drama. If you're in music, which one I've done, and it has to go back to a period section because they want 5 minutes at the beginning of the music video for it to look like it's a bit of a drama, you also have to create that within that kind of world as well and bring in dated items, period items and things like that. A designer can be very flexible and use their skills. I don't think anyone really needs to be one or the other, but some people just love working in one world, and the creativity around being really in a scripted drama working environment for 6 to 7 months, and other people like myself, kind of I love moving on. So I love working on something for 2-3 weeks and then moving on to the next one. And I love this, the creative developments of the different ones. and being able to kind of create, move on, film it, see it on camera, and things like that. So there are many different worlds to be in, and I think with mine they do change very differently. And like at the moment, it's a game show and a music video and a commercial, and you're kind of talking about them all in different worlds in your head. And I can flick very quickly, and that's a skill that you develop to switch from one chat, go onto a Zoom with a different production company to talk about the next one. And you can do that across a couple at the same time because they're all in different stages of development. So one's being filmed, one you're having an initial meeting about to discuss ideas, and another one is actually talking about series 2 that's coming back in the summer. So your head's always flipping between the different projects that you're working on at the different times.
That's what I like about the industry as well, though. I think that changeability and adaptability, and not one day is the same, is it? And I think that's the great thing about the creative industries. It's not the typical 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You don't know sometimes what you're going to walk into.
Absolutely. And also it's so different. Even on the same project, it can change from Monday through to Friday. To the project I'm on at the moment with development, it started with one sort of style of design. We've worked through it, and they have decided that they want to go more technological with more lighting effects. The whole set has changed and moved towards something completely, then they're unrecognizable from start to finish. I think what I love is there is a challenge with every single set you design. So for me, it would be a location throws you a problem. So, or the weather throws you a problem, and you have to think quickly on your feet about how to get around that issue. For example, we filmed in a castle, and suddenly they're like, we need to get this 4-poster bed to the room at the top of the castle because that's the best shots. Absolutely agree. But in between that room and where we're going to load in the set, there's a spiral staircase. And we can't create that, and you can't get anything through the windows. That's your problem. And you have to almost take things up in carrying sizes so you can get it up around the spiral staircase, but you have also kind of have to put it together so it's something big in the room. Sometimes we build it elsewhere in a workshop, and then we break it back down into the sections that we can carry up a spiral staircase. Or it could be like you're looking at something outside on location and you're filming in the dead of winter, which we did on the Inbetweeners, and everyone's freezing, but it's supposed to look like it's the summer holidays for the kids. All the time you're like, well, if we can help sort this out, this gives you that effect, making it look like it's the summer. We'll put an ice cream van over here. You'll do things like that. So on that one, I helped a production designer. That was as I was learning my trade and kind of coming up through it. So you're helping and learning at the same time. So I think it's always those little challenges that you're seeing as you're coming up through those levels of working, that as you become the production designer, you suddenly have a wealth of experience of handling all these little challenges. I mean, some of them we don't even know how to handle them. Like the things that get thrown at me now, and I go away, talk to my team, we come up with some solutions, we come back together again. All the time, they're all challenges. That's the exciting part. At the end of the day, you go, God, we put that together. That was amazing, wasn't it? We've had 4 days to build that because that's all we were allowed to have, but we still managed it because we planned it and we sorted out everything that we could beforehand. So that's the exciting part. That's the bit that thrills me as well. That sometimes you think, oh, I can't do this, and other times you're like, this is amazing, we've done it.
Yay.
So, yeah.
You've worked on an amazing range of projects, from movies, documentaries, commercials, and talk shows. What's your favourite out of all the different things that you've worked on so far?
I think I love music. There's a buzz being in the room, being paid to be in the room where you've got some of the most amazing artists in the world standing there in front of you, and you're sat there and you're listening to Lady Gaga or Elton John or someone like that, and you're thinking, I'm getting paid to do this today. But and also the thing that is amazing is your set that you help create is there, and they're using it to become who, and perform and do this amazing performance in front of you. And then there's the music playing in the background. And, we did a shoot with Harry Styles at Abbey Road Studios. And this is where you have to work with the other teams. The director had a beautiful vision in his head, Paul Dugdale, and the cameras were there ready to help with it. And then he discussed his shot. And then we realized there was a load of the set, the room that was going to be seen, and we had to kind of make it look like it wasn't what it was, and we had to hide it and things like that. When we went to do that job, we sorted it all out. When we stepped back, let Paul and his team, the camera department, set up their shot. We all had to step out the room And then Harry Styles started playing the music, and the music was pumping and it was fantastic. And you saw this one shot, and it was just one camera spinning around the room, and it looked fantastic on screen. And the sound was fantastic, the lighting was fantastic, cameras and Paul and the performance, and everyone gave it its all, and it just looked spectacular on screen. And I think I love the buzz of that sort of side of it. But in recent years, I've got a buzz out of true life documentary films. So getting a real story and helping to create that on screen. So be a story that's shocking or something like that, and people haven't really known the details. And then there's a team that's done all the research behind it. So like your panorama type things or something like that. And actually they've done all the research, found the evidence, and you sit down on a table. How can I design the set to allow you to tell this story in the right way without manipulating the vision and what the evidence is showing? I don't want my set to take over the story. I want it to be a part of the story. I want the actors to be able to bounce off of a set. If it's a little bit period, you want them to, pick up an old mobile phone and make a phone call on that. You then realize that your set isn't the focal point. It is part of helping to give everybody the ability to act within, film within, to tell the story. And that's really the important part. And, we click over to the interviews of the real people who've gone through these scenarios and click back to the scripted drama of it all. And that's something, as I'm getting older, I'm getting a little bit more excited about being a part of that team, telling that. But there's the world for everything, I think. And it is interesting to get that different project in front of you. And I think it's okay to come into our world, this industry, as one thing, and then 10 years later transition into another thing, start writing your own script or have a vision to be able to do your own filming. And then, you can always move back to where you originated from, but you can move around within the industry from scripted into music, into documentaries, and you can still use the industry to kind of bounce and change and develop yourself. I mean, you don't have to stay that one role in the industry all your life. You can be many things within it.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? The challenges and the changes. It's like you say, there's not many careers that we can do that, but in the creative industry, as it truly is.
And I think it's like those different challenges that if you change yourself, you start to create new challenges for yourself. So if you will start to see a door open that you didn't see before because you took on a different kind of project. And sometimes it's the low budgets that give you the ability to be the most creative or force you to be creative because you don't have the money. And then you suddenly can start getting excited about it. Where when you've got all the money being thrown at you in the world for a big budget, you can create what you want, and kind of you do. And some of it is amazing. But when you've got little budgets, and I'm talking about art departments set budgets being £10,000, can you create this for me for 10,000? You go, that's really tight. But come on, let's try it. Let's see. And the projects can be sometimes the most emotional and the most rewarding if you've got a tiny budget because you've created it knowing what your restrictions were.
When you look back over your career and all the different challenges that you've had, did anybody give you a piece of advice that stuck with you and gave you a certain outlook as you went forward in your career?
As I started out, there are things that people said to me and I was like, okay, no, I'll see what I can see. I'll experience it myself. But actually, as you're going through things, you start to hear what they said to you, like always be attentive, always be interested in what's being filmed. And I think that's because when you're on set, you're learning. And I think they were like, just stand there and watch what people do. And that was my first 1 or 2 years. So I would do my job, what I was paid for, and then I would step back and always be there watching what the director said. And then you start to realize, you learn a bit more about it, and so the only thing you can do is actually learn that on set. You can't learn that in the classroom. If you're just there watching how people work with each other, you realize what's the right thing to do, when's the right moment to speak up, for example, and when you step back and let everybody else do their job because you've done yours, you've done what's needed from the art department. And I think the moment you think, oh, I've been to university or I've been on set for 5 years, I kind of know what I'm doing. That's wrong, I feel. For me, next week, I'm going to learn about some new camera lenses. I'm going on a class to learn about how AI is being introduced into the industry. You have to keep learning. And I sat there with a director about 5-6 years ago, and they said, do you know this new camera lens? And I said, no, I don't. And they were like, damn, I was looking for a designer that knew about that lens because I want to work with that lens. And that went, it was my responsibility to keep myself up on the latest technology, the latest cameras and lights that are coming out and how that impacts my set. So you've got the new anamorphic lens, I would say new, it's not really new anymore, but that made the set so much wider than it ever had been in the past. You have to know that your set design now needs to extend left and right by quite a few more meters. And that comes about by knowing what that lens can do. So I would say keep learning, keep getting on to the next filming methods, the next camera, the new way things are being done, the new way that Poor Things was filmed, or, you know, Oppenheimer and things like that. And then learning from that and bringing it back into what you're creating. And you keep getting excited too. I mean, I look at these new lenses and I go, God, that's amazing. I can't believe that like it can make it look like that, or it can focus in the way that this does with such clarity. So now I need to think about that. That's exciting, what my set needs to be like. I'm kind of want to jump on that now. I want to be involved in what's being filmed with that new camera lens.
Do you think it's also maybe important to be a runner on set as well, so you can learn the ins and outs of what everybody does, the different roles?
Oh, 100%. There's nothing that made me learn more than being a runner. Sometimes they didn't need you, so you moved over to help with camera running or with production running. And each time you learn a little something more. So it might not be that you'll end up in production, but what are the stresses, the expectation of production? And by that, I mean the line producers, production managers, exec producers, people like that. What is their pressures that they're going through at that moment, that you can either, one, help facilitate and help them ease that up a little bit, or not add to, or when they come and ask you, look, we really need this to happen, you understand why, because you understand the pressures that they're all under. And sometimes it's not favorable, like you're in the moment of filming and then suddenly someone from production comes and says, I need all 8 of your art vehicles moved. And you're like, oh my God, this is so difficult. But you know what? There's a reason for that. And that's because we've accidentally blocked in an entrance for emergency vehicles, or that's going to be the next shot of the day and everyone's going to shoot our trucks, so we're going to have to move them. So you start to learn what other people's roles are and why that and how that impacts you. And then you end up doing what you want to do better. And also everybody's learning a possible employer. Everyone's learning about you, what you're capable of. And so you'll be surprised about how you get your jobs. It will be 2 years later, someone will give you a call and say, oh, Sarah recommended you. She worked on the Harry Styles music video with you and said that you did this really well. And we're doing something very similar. I'd love to see if you jump on board. So you don't know if that's your next employer. You know, the next job you really want to do, that person's going to be the person giving that opportunity to you. And just by learning what other people are going through, how long it takes cameras to set up their shot, allows you to know how long it takes for art department to move what they need to move for them to get their shot. And I keep going back to, if you are a good team that collaborates together, you help each other out. And I think there's no, this is our job, we finished it, we'll walk away. If cameras are struggling and that's going to push the art department behind for the next shoot, jump in. What do you need? What can we help you with? Yes, we've got a van. Do you want to throw your stuff in the back of our van and we'll head off to the next location together? Let's help each other out, because we will then be able to create what we need to in the times and in the budgets. And, you know, we work with each other. We are in hotels with each other. We're eating dinner together. We're not with our families, you know, we're with each other a lot more than most working people normally are. So it's good to get on with each other. It's nice to be a team.
Those networks are just so important, aren't they? As we've got to the end of the interview, is there any sort of wisdom that you've learned throughout your life experience that you'd like to share?
I think it's very easy to, at this point, to kind of go, this is what you should be doing. I think everybody has their own little path of trying to get into the industry. I just want to say that for me, it wasn't easy. I didn't get any internships. I didn't get on any work experiences or anything. I was knocking on doors. I took jobs in London, working in bars. I was a cleaner. I did all this for many years. I got the odd 1-2 weeks working on a set. I was thrilled. I thought that was it. And then suddenly I didn't hear from anybody for 6 months and all my CVs weren't being answered to. You just have to keep knocking on the doors. And at some point it will click. And at some moment it will end up becoming your full-time career. I mean, it's such a strange moment. The thing I would say is just, if you want to be doing it, you have to keep doing it. You have to keep knocking on the doors. If your CV is not looking like it's being accepted, recreate it again. I've got 15 different CVs. If it's a period drama, I send that one off. And if it's a modern day music video, I send this one off. Keep on redeveloping yourself, because if you love doing it, at some point you knocking on that door will get you in. But for me, it took me 5, 6, 7 years to actually make it my full-time career. And I think some people are lucky they get in within 2 years or 6 months or something like that. But there is no promise of that once you're starting out. So you just have to keep a lot of rejection. Even now, I applied for 2 jobs this year of jobs I really wanted. And another designer was chosen. That's a rejection. It's fine. I'll move on. There's another job next week that I'm going to go for instead. So that's always networking constantly, learning constantly about the new methods, and redeveloping yourself every 6 months. A new CV, a new website. Put something up on your website, put something up on your Instagram that's going to attract interest, and keep talking to people. And I think that's the sort of that keep on chipping away is what I've learned. Getting into the university in America, chipped away at that. Getting into these roles, chipped away, and at some point it clicks, and it feels like people go, oh, I can't believe you got there. It took a lot of work to get there. There was a lot of long nights. There was a lot of designers asking me for something, and I thought, oh, I've got to stay up all night doing this. So I stayed up all night, sent them the design off in the morning. They were thrilled with it. And finally, you'll start doing things that you're thrilled with and you're excited to be a part of. So yeah, just don't give up. That's I guess that's the bit that I learned.
You've provided so much insight, and there's so much that our listeners can learn from all the different things that you've explored on this podcast. So thank you so much for sharing them.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Inside Entertainment Industry Careers podcast. Make sure to subscribe for an email notification of when the next podcast episode goes live in 2 weeks' time. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, family, and network, and leave us some feedback.